All right, we are back here on the podcast. A little bit late in the week for stay in the Mets, but they were so messy. We had to wait and see what happened with the Mets. And now I think we have a rough idea of what needs to happen to them to get into the postseason. Join me today. I've talked to him most recently, I think, after the Juan Soto signing. It's in terms of being a Met situation. Things have changed for us a lot, Martino Puccio, over the past like 9 months.
Yeah, quite a bit. Pretty big roller coaster since that signing. Obviously, the Pete Alonso saga in itself was insane, and then all the spring training issues with pitching and the continued issue with pitching. Yes, it has been a roller coaster of a ride, and we're here in a final weekend of the season with the playoffs on the line against the Marlins. So
Yeah.
we've never been here before. There's that at least, you know.
Hey, third time's the charm.
But yes, we'll just leave it at that. We're just going to it.
Yeah, so we'll get down to where I talk about it at the top, the current where they stand posting ones. We'll get that in a minute here. So I think the prominent question we should like sort of dive into open ended a little bit is like we all everybody who follows the Mets or baseball here knows the story that on June 12th they were 45 and 24. They were at the best record in the National League, 21 games above 500. Look well set to be cruising into the playoffs. Fast forward to today, September 26th, before they begin their final series against the Marlins. The Mets are 82 and 77. They have a 78.5% chance to make the playoffs, according to ESPN. They are up a game on the Reds of a tiebreaker on them. So if they do not finish a better record on the Reds, they miss the playoffs entirely. So this question is simple. How the hell do we get here?
Well, I was kind of alluding to it, but pitching or lack thereof. I think you, I, and Will, our good friend, basically sit there and try and dissect some of the worst pitching staffs or or groups of pitchers that the Mets have had in our fandom. So, circa at the latest 2003, 2004. And I can't help but every time I go through each year that this is a bottom three pitching staff core rotation that the New York Mets have had in my entire fandom. They might be number one, especially within the past couple of months, excluding these rookie pitchers who have come to make some sort of positive impact. But even then, you're depending upon three-fifths of your rotation to be rookies and to help you produce. So I think largely this is a lack of pitching. It's the historical awful fact that the Mets did not have a starting pitcher go six or more innings outside of David Peterson for an extended period of time. I think that was from 1900. They had the longest such streak in Major League history. And when you do something like that, it ends up burning your bullpen, which is, by all accounts, considering what they've had to do with their injuries, with the lack of length from the starters, they've been good still. I know that they've been shaky quite often, but it's difficult when you're asked to do the amount of work that those pitchers have been asked to do because of the lack of starting depth. So I think ultimately that's where it's at. Sprinkle in some streaky hitting the first couple months as well. I don't think we could ignore that. But definitely since if you want to be generous, sometime in July up until now, the Mets have had a better formula for scoring runs. Brett Beatty has really more or less solidified himself. August was the most prolific offensive month in Mets history, but it was also coupled with one of the worst pitching months in team history as well. They finished with a losing record. Go figure. But that's ultimately what it is. It's some of the worst pitching, and it's a lack of aggression with calling up the younger pitchers who could have made an impact. It was also a lack of aggression at the trade deadline to acquire a starting pitcher to help bolster this team.
Yeah, definitely. I think a very good summation, about 2 minutes and change about the Mets' current predicament. I'll add in here. Definitely the streakiness of the offense also is a big factor. People don't realize enough. Like there are weeks where they just cannot like gotten out. They're all hitting at once, and then like there are weeks at a time when nobody hits, and then you're sitting here, the pitching gets exposed even further. So like I read an article recently on the Athletic from friends of the podcast, Will Salmon and Tim Britton, and like one thing they feel like that they talk to people in the front office, like they feel like their process this year has not been like bad. They feel like sequencing has been more of an issue. And if you look at some of the advanced metrics, I think like expected win record, they should have about 8 more wins than they have now. I think another one
Mhm.
has 4 more wins they should have now. So their sort of thought process is, hey, like the process was not flawed. It's like we've been the victim of some bad sequencing, whereas like we talked about, like, okay, all the hitters clicked at once, then all of them did not click at once. As opposed to like if you had 2 or 3 consistently going, maybe you win a couple more games that way. But I wrote an article for Mets on SI recently, 25 games the 2025 Mets would love to have back. There are a lot of games that, like, if they win 5 of them, they're comfortably home in the playoffs right now. If they win half, they're fighting with the Phillies in the NL East title, the best record in the league.
A good amount of them are probably against the Washington Nationals off the top of my head. I remember back in April or May,
Uh,
whenever that 7-1 lead was blown. That's just like one of those things where you're like, that's going to cost them. I,
since June 13th, by the way, that stretch of 25 games,
well,
that
then,
7-1 game.
yeah, we knew it. None of it is really surprising to me. Also, like inconsistent defense. Sometimes you'll see them play and have great turnaround plays like Beatty yesterday. What you've seen, Lindor, probably the most inconsistent defensive season that he's had. Definitely, probably in his career at this point. So couple that with, I mean, really bad center field play. Center field was such a problem in terms of hitting for, I don't know, how much of the season do you really want to say?
I'd
Like,
say probably since like
us-
the middle of May when Tyrone Taylor went cold.
right? And he's never really a bat that you want to depend upon. Siri was sub Mendoza line anyways with Tampa last year. Broke his tibia or whatever it was, came back, DFA'd, disaster. Cedric Mullins has been terrible. Uh, the catching position, Francisco Alvarez, prior to his injury and even going down, he was really not that sort of power hitter going to his bread and butter. He always seemed like he was pressing even since that injury last season. Because prior to that, I was even discussing last night with you and Will, he was really good
Yeah,
prior to that. I think he was hitting like 300, and this is 2024. And then it just disappeared. He got away from what was making him good. He was pressing, trying to swing for the fences all the time. It's a much better measured approach. That 2-run home run against the Cubs, I think, was a perfect example of it. Will also likes to bring up how much of a gamer he is and that sort of attitude and mentality. I think when you see guys like Kim, Beatty, even Tyrone last night with the 2-run double, when you see guys like that finally do something, I think it helps put the Alonsos, the Nimos, the Lindors at ease. Soto is like always the same guy.
yeah.
Um, so for me, I think that's ultimately what it is. I think that streakiness of when, Lindor goes missing for weeks, Alonso went missing for weeks. That stuff is going to compound when you get inconsistent play. You're platooning guys at the DH position. People, history looking back on the Vientos season this year is going to be, you just can't look at the stats. You have to go month by month and check the splits because outside of August, you're really just kind of like, this was a lost year for Mark.
Yeah.
But when he's finally gotten that consistency, when he's in the lineup hitting more often, and I think just worrying about hitting is best for him. Obviously, we profess him to be a DH. I think that's what makes the Mets a lot more dangerous. Ultimately, the formula with the pitching and that streakiness does not bode well for the regular season. And it's why the Mets are in the spot that they're in right now, where it's a must win every single game. I don't really care about, oh, they got to do this, and then the Reds might have to just win every game. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Anything else that happens outside of that is irrelevant.
Yeah, because you win all 3 games in the Marlins, it doesn't matter what the Reds do.
No, it doesn't. And that's like we're not even excluding Arizona. Arizona essentially punted that game against the Dodgers yesterday. They conceded that one. Like I hate conceding wins, but I understand where they were coming from. Gallen's a hot pitcher right now. They want him going in that series. I just think that with the way this Mets offense is going right now, I think it's still providing a good enough amount of production, regardless of, game 2 in the Chicago series. It's really just what I constantly say with this team and just any team in this current playoff system of Major League Baseball is you just got to get in.
Yep, that's
Just
all that
get in.
matters.
You see what happens. You never really know, especially when the first series is going to be 3 games.
Yeah. And you can win 2 out of 3. Like anybody can win 2 out of 3 in the right setup.
Anybody, literally you put the Marlins in right now, they could win 2 of 3. Who's to say, like, even I mean, look
The
at the
Nationals,
Pirates.
the Nationals won 2 out of 3 in New York.
The Pirates could have swept the Reds in Cincinnati. They should have. No, Levy Marte had to make a game-robbing home run catch
Yeah.
just for them to secure that. They weren't doing that great. Baseball is the funniest sport on the planet when it comes to that because say the Mets get in, they're throwing what? It's going to be Snell, Ohtani, and Yamamoto. I said it like on paper, you're like, oh, okay, that's scary, but it's also like, okay, Shohei, how long can he go? Not very long, right?
Yeah.
I know you're probably going to segue into it, but the point is like anything can happen in those 3 games. They have a really difficult matchup in these next 3 with Perez, Cabrera, and Alcantara. So we'll see how they end up doing with it.
Yeah, before we get to the Marlins series here, I do want
Mhm.
to touch on like the questions the Met fans have about Mendoza after he had a very rough season where like last year, I think after May, every button he pushed went right. This year,
Yeah.
I think every button he's pushed after May went wrong. And I feel like that's something here you got to wonder here. Like they're not firing the manager. David Stearns said this several times.
Yes.
Not firing David Stearns after Steve Cohen waited 3 years to get him away from Milwaukee. That's not happening here. I think what you do have to hope here is that Carlos Mendoza learns from this year that, okay, maybe I don't have to be so by the book with the platoon advantage, or, I got to worry about tomorrow. And like, this game is fine if I give this up. Like, he's a little more in game urgency that you want to see from Mendoza going forward.
Yeah, and some of it I think is not always on him. Like when pitchers are this bad, you can't blame the manager. At certain points you have to blame the players, and I know a good amount of Mets fans do that. Mendoza is just sort of the logic behind the moves, not the moves itself, right? Like, I mean, he could put a guy in that you think like, oh yeah, like he's of course got to come in, shut this down. Like McLean, like there's 2 examples, right? Like with McLean going back out for that inning, regardless, last night it was the right move. It's about having the guy ready to go up to take him out quickly. It's about leaving David Peterson in for too long. Do I blame him for David Peterson? Like, what are they supposed to do? They have 3 rookies on the staff. I know some people are like, you can't throw David Peterson, you can't start. Who else? Who is your option?
There's
Who do you want them to go with? Kodai Senga might never pitch for the Mets again. They were talking about a bullpen session where they're like, it was okay. They're publicly stating a bullpen session was okay for a guy that was making the All-Star team, was like in top 5 for ERA, even though it's like a little fugazi with the innings, blah, blah, blah. Like,
also Peterson made the All-Star team and fell apart.
yes. Peterson was literally their best pitcher. I was just talking about the statistic that he was giving them the most length all season. Like, sorry that Carlos had to use the guys that he's been given. And that's like the larger issue is that that's a David Stearns problem and fault, right?
Yeah.
And neither are getting fired, neither should get fired. If they missed the playoffs, I think anything's on the table with that. It would probably be Mendoza if someone is let go. But, when you cut corners at the starting pitching angle, this is what you get. Ultimately, seriously, you didn't want to trade for somebody. You thought the prices were too high. You didn't want to sign anyone for certain prices. I understand the Corbin Burns side of things, but your big deals were Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea coming back. Long term, it's not much. You can get rid of, Montas anytime. Griffin Canning was good. There's a ton of bad injury luck with the team. Like Mendoza's like it's his fault that Danny Young, AJ Minter,
Nunez,
yes,
Gafford.
Nunez, Montas got injured, whatever. Montas and Manaea missed the start of the season. Senga can't keep his legs healthy. He also had that hamstring injury. You're looking at David Peterson also throwing the most innings that he's thrown. Canning goes down, obviously, with the Achilles injury. There was just a plethora of issues, and none of which that you could really look at Carlos Mendoza or David Stearns and say, your fault. It was a record amount. And in a way, the only reason why they're in this is because they had that 20 game cushion.
Yeah, they
Because they've had a
massive.
bottom 5 record since.
massive cushion, and this is basically a test to see how far can you get up and basically give it all away and still make the postseason. That's basically what you're looking at right now.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, they end up getting a winning record. It's just,
Which didn't feel
I don't.
guaranteed a week ago.
It's really bad. And the funniest thing I think of all of this is the parallels between them and the 2006 Cardinals, which is just the funniest thing of all time for any fan to really look at if you're a Mets fan, because it's really based off of like the Mets are going to win seven straight. Oh, and then they'll have an 8 game losing streak in there. They'll have a stretch where they're losing 17 of like 20 games. Where like, how is it possible to lose that many? I send the text to the group all the time of people like tweeting out, like, I see the most garbage pitchers somehow manage to put up like 5 or 6 innings of at least 2 run ball. Manaya and David Peterson can't do that. Like, it's impossible for them. They can't even luck into it. You know what I'm saying? Like that, even if a pitcher makes a mistake, right? So we see this with Soto all the time. Soto will pop it up. He's like, I just missed that one. It seems like every mistake that a Mets pitcher makes, the other team capitalizes. And realistically, it's Major League Baseball. These guys are really good. That's bound to happen. But how are you
But
never gonna like kind of like luck into like just
let
I've
me
seen Chris Capuano do well for like months on end.
let me interject for a little bit because it does feel like
Of course.
the end of 2024, it does feel like there was like a horseshoe up their ass for most of the second half where everything went the
Absolutely.
right way. It feels like now the luck gods came back and said, okay, now you got to pay the piper for that.
Yeah, well, that's baseball, Susan, right? Like
Yeah.
at the end of it, like you can't have everything go perfect for you. For the Mets, it just always feels like it's one side of the coin. It's never really that gray area of like, okay, we got some good pitching, we got some good hitting. Sometimes it synced up, sometimes it didn't. It was really just like we're getting no hitting, the pitching's top of the line for the first couple of months. We're getting no pitching. Our offense is historical for the Mets, and we're sitting here with four guys who at least have hit 25 or more home runs. They should have had, if they didn't do the platoon stuff and Alvarez didn't go down, you're talking about potentially 7 guys with 20 home runs. I think Alvarez could have hit 20. Beatty certainly could have done 20. He's already close anyways. And
You got
obviously
yeah,
Vientos.
two 30-30 guys too. And Soto potentially going 40-40, which is something you would not have in the
Correct.
bingo card going into the season.
And then two players who have hit 35 or more.
Yeah.
And it's just insane because they've been streaky.
The
So yeah,
numbers of this team overall, like the offense wise, you're sitting here like, how does this team have 82 wins? You feel like they would be at least in the mid 80s, like with the offense.
because you've just got guys who throw meatballs
Yeah.
with pitching batting practice.
I think also goes back to the sequencing thing that the athletic all references, where they feel like that all of their good production came like at the same time. Whereas it's not like, like 1 month, like, okay, like Soto's carrying us. Okay, then Pete's carrying us. It was like, okay, either everybody's hitting or everybody's not hitting. There's no like there's no
There
like,
was I would only say Pete and Lindor were carrying them in April, May, and then Soto had his June, which was historical. But then after that, I
either
would again after June, it's like, oh, everybody's hot. Okay, like no one even looks like they have any idea of what to do, what's going on, what pitch to expect, when to swing, when not to swing. There was just so many issues. And we're not even talking about how good they are on the base paths.
yeah.
They're great. They're great running on the base path.
Yeah,
It's
they
one of
are.
the best stealing teams in Mets history, if not the best.
Yeah. And like the sequencing here that they talked about here, I do think it also makes sense here because like when we have the historic August when they are mashing the baseball here, like the pitching is just not like delivering here. And like if the pitching is like competent in August, again, we're not having this conversation. We're sitting here saying, okay, how are we
Mediocre,
yeah.
mediocre. Not you're not even saying give me top 10 pitching. Like can you beat like even if they were like 20th?
I say, can we give me 5 innings, 3 runs consistently? That like you didn't even get that.
No. And then even yesterday, what was it? It was 8-2 at whatever point it was, and we're like, this doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, but then you have a ball basically land on the very far edge of the chalk for a double, then a 3-run homer.
There's like little things. Yeah, there's definitely little things. McLean was getting squeezed at certain times. Jonah Tong, on his start, I thought he got squeezed. It elongates things, but you have to be battle tested. You have to figure that stuff out. But there was like poor defensive issues there. The Mets can ill afford to sacrifice certain things, and it feels like they are still trying to sacrifice. and David Stearns is like putting his hand on the stove and not moving it until his skin falls off.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like he's playing this game of chicken where it's like we'll punt this game, we'll do this, we'll move this around, we'll put Vientos at third, even though Beatty should be in there. Beatty, we're not comfortable against lefties, but he hits a 3-run opposite field home run off of Shota Imanaga. Like it's just like you have to trust your players at a certain point to do the deed. Starling Marte in doses at DH, we're okay with that. Pinch hitting at DH, cool. Mark Vientos was too hot to sit. Brett Beatty's defense is too good to sit. They got away with Acuna last night too,
Reimer
right?
was rotting on the bench for 3 months because they don't want to send him down and keep the option preserved for 27, 20, which is 26, which is like,
Which is like I get it because then you'll have like a what another Jose Buto situation where you had to move Buto. I like in theory that's kind of what would pop up, but like again, you're right. It's just like
the
it's
service of the
little things
player.
like that compound over the course of 162 games where you're in a final stretch of the season where the Reds are going to have to play the Brewers, and then so on.
Yeah. Can I offer my theory on this before we move on to the current situation? Like what they need to happen this weekend here? And this is something I've talked about with you guys off the air. I wrote about it for Mets on that side too.
Hmm.
I feel like the issue with the Mets, specifically, once they got that big lead, is that they got very complacent. And said, okay, we're making the playoffs. We have to set ourselves up for the best chance to do well in October. So if that means, we're protecting the kids, getting as many starts in the minors as we need, fine. Like if we give up a game in June because, like we're gonna go with a bullpen game because we don't want to promote a guy too early, fine. Like if we're not gonna rush our pitchers back, fine. Like I feel like they were way too content. Say, okay, like don't need this game, don't need that game. Like we're just
Of
gonna get
course.
through the season, fine, and we'll be there. But like they do not have the experience to navigate that.
No, they weren't good enough. They never had the pitching for it. I said it. I said it from June. I was like, they're literally punting games and they're acting like it's a guarantee to get in.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like, this is also what annoys me with Mets fans who think like this year is worse than 2007. Every game counts.
yeah,
If you were conscious enough, watch all 162 games that year and in 2008, and you said to yourself, oh, it's just one game, doesn't matter here, that, shut up. Please shut up.
one
Because
game.
if you did not watch any of that, then you have no idea what could happen. And they did that in 17 games. We're talking about, and
100.
there's plenty of prime examples. Also, the collapses in, was it 2012 or 2013 with game 162 with the Tampa Bay Rays, when the Red Sox blew that divisional lead, when I believe also the Atlanta Braves might have done it. I forget what other team. There were multiple collapses within the month of September. This stuff can happen to you. 20 games up in June means nothing. It doesn't. It means you're probably set up probability wise to make the postseason, but guarantees, we're also seeing a 15 game lead evaporate for the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah,
And people are still going to sit here and act like you're owed something in the sport that owes nobody. It's laughable to me that a lot of fans just
yeah.
they live in a fairy tale dream.
Yeah,
That
again, you're not the Dodgers. The Dodgers have felt this ability where they can just coast for months at a time and then flip the switch. Like your guys have not shown you can flip the switch immediately and just be ready to go at that point. Like these,
that's a well-oiled machine into year
well,
whatever it is for Andrew Friedman, like at least 10.
yeah,
And it's year two of David Stearns fixing the slop of, you know, the Wilpon era still to an extent. And I think we're just like slowly phasing out everything out of the Mets like system in terms of, Wilpon's stinkiness reek.
yeah,
But it's also like I say it all the time. You had Jared Porter, you had Billy Epler, you had Zach Scott. How many guys are coming in, changing things? Andrew Friedman, it's solidity from day one. And they were also taking over a plenty talented team at that point. It's not like they're like complete losers like the Mets were. Like it was completely different. And you're right. They also have like a far more talented team top to bottom that they could like pull that kind of stuff off. They had that farm system that they could rely upon for years that's been proven. The Mets are not there.
yeah.
It's still years away.
And it was funny too because the comparison, you think about this summer, at one point, both the Mets and the Yankees were struggling, but the same amount of time, from like mid-June through mid-August, and the Yankees said, hey, you know what, like what the fuck, we're better than this. And then they got hot, and now they're in a mix where they could theoretically end up with the number one seed
Well,
in
they
the
had starters. They had starting pitching.
yeah.
They've had it for a while, and that's without, Garrett Cole.
And they had Aaron Judge barely playing the field, missing about 10 days on the IL in there too.
Yeah, he missed a little bit of time. Their offense was never like they have like streakiness in their offense, but as a whole, like it's deep. It's not the most prolific offense that you'll ever see. But like 1 through 9, there's not like a general like, oh my God, this guy is so bad. Like we can't have it. Like even Anthony Volpe. Volpe is like very shaky in the field, but the kid still has pop. He's able to do stuff on the base paths. He's not the worst player I've ever seen. Sure, like did he get a lot of hype? Yeah, because he's a Yankees fan growing up. He's playing shortstop. His idol was Derek Jeter. So that's naturally always going to be the thing. He's still not that bad. Austin Wells is still top three in RBIs for a catcher in the American League. And it's gone quiet. Ben Rice is one of the best unspoken players and most versatile players in Major League Baseball. Bellinger had a revival with the Yankees. Obviously, he did well with Chicago, but, he's been invaluable for them. It's just, their pitching ultimately is what did it, and they fixed their bullpen kinda. So,
Kind of sort
they I think they had less holes to fill. The Mets had more, and then they thought they could coast on by and that they would like fix themselves somehow.
Yeah, and the Yankees also, as much as everybody wants to complain about them playing the little sisters of the poor, they beat those teams. The Mets dropped two series of Nationals and one to the Marlins already in the last like month and a half, and that's why you're sitting in this spot.
The Marlins one is one thing to me. And even back in April, you remember Xavier Edwards like insane catches in center field against the Mets. Like the Marlins are still a respectable team. That's a good team with a pitching staff that keeps you in games day to day, and we'll see it this weekend. The Nationals stuff is the most inexcusable thing. Obviously the series at home recently. I forget, did they play them in August or July? That series in
August,
Washington.
yeah, August and Washington, they won.
Well, both series in Washington that I remember were the worst and most inexcusable series of the season. For relative to like competition and teams that they were playing, it was inexcusable. I mean, even Pittsburgh, we didn't even talk about how badly they played in Pittsburgh. They didn't even face
They were
schemes
they were
there.
they were outscored 30-4 in that series against a very bad Pittsburgh team.
Pittsburgh Pirates outscored the Mets by 26. I think that's also the biggest gap that the Mets have lost a series by in their entire history,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, in a 3-game stretch. So all that stuff happens in a season in which you're up 20 games in June. And that's how you get to this moment against Miami starting tonight.
Yeah, so we'll reset the moment here. They have the series against Miami this weekend. Brandon Sproats pitching tonight for the Mets. We do not know what they're going to do on Saturday or Sunday pitching wise yet. Saturday is supposed to be the piggyback slot with Senga, well, not Senga, with Mania and Clay Holmes. Sunday is the Peterson scheduled slot, but we've heard Carlos Mendoza say, "Hey, I could use all three starters on Saturday if I want." He's just like basically throwing out like basically the I don't know what the hell I'm doing. We'll just make it.
I don't think he's saying I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I think he's
I
just
think
being
he's projecting it out
because he's
at
not.
to try and fool the
I,
market.
I also don't think he wants to tip his hand. I don't think he wants to, like, because what
Miami.
happens if the Reds do lose tonight and the Mets win?
He wants to keep Miami guessing also.
I think what Miami's doing here is putting their best forward and finishing out the season strong when no one expected them to because they just got eliminated last night. Like that is, this is about for next year for Miami. This series matters for them in that manner. We'll see who they actually end up keeping. Peter Bendix has, like a lot to work on and work with. Stowers isn't in this series. I think the Mets dodged a huge bullet there. So we'll see. I like it just again, you know, it's just PTSD for a lot of Mets fans. It's the Marlins on the final day of the weekend where you don't trust your pitching, you have a good offense, and you're just right there. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. So the situation here basically Marlins series, it's Sandy, Yuri Perez, and Alcantara and Edward Cabrera on Sunday here. We'll see how long they let these guys go. They'll start the games, especially the guys who could be trade bait. We'll see if they let them go too deep in the games. The thing here at the Mets, you watch the Reds are in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's not exactly locked up the number one seed yet. They still are.
Yeah.
They have to win a game to get there. And Ron Darling pointing out on SNY last night that the Brewers are in the situation where like they're gonna have a week off after this series. So like
Yes.
they are gonna have to, get guys in there. They can line their stars out how they want, but you have to pitch your big relievers. You have to let your guys get at bats so they don't get cold. So maybe Sunday you give some guys off, but at least the first two games of that series, you expect Milwaukee trying to win those games. And Arizona two back, Padres, who knows? But I think if you're the
Uh,
Mets, I think you can reasonably think that if you win two, you'll get a loss from the Reds in Milwaukee and you'll be in. I think that's
and
the
not to mention Philly. Philly's playing Minnesota. So Philly to clinch number one seed in the NL is still on the table, like as you mentioned. So I mean, we'll see. I think Milwaukee's just very happy to get that bye to get into the NLDS because we know how their first round woes go. Listen, since he hasn't been playing that great, they're not like playing any like there's a lot of dramatic. There's a lot of late inning things that have to go in their way in favor in order for them to just be in this position. The Mets are like they'll tell you how the game is gonna go within the first three innings, right? Like if the Mets are there to play or the Mets are gonna win the game. Even if they, score 6 runs, you're like, holy shit, like I don't know if they're gonna be able to hold on. But you're still like, okay, the good Mets offense showed up tonight
yeah,
and they're gonna get something going. I do think, real quick, that comeback in game one against the Cubs, I think that screw the 0-66, 0-67 after trailing after 8 innings. You saw it happen once, and this team knew what they did last year. They have Juan Soto. It's realist to me. It's really about the pitching.
yeah,
I don't agree with like the reason why the Mets haven't been able to come back in certain games is because they haven't been able to been in games. I'm very curious to see every single one of those games when they're like 0-62. What's the margin between the team winning and the Mets, and how difficult that is to overcome? If we're talking about like 50 of those odd games being 1 or 2 run games, then you're like, okay, the Mets don't really have that kind of juice. But if they're getting blown out all the time because the pitching is garbage, it's sort of like, what do you want the offense to do at that point? That's really difficult to come back from. So, on top of the bullpen being tired, Sandy, real quick before you keep going here, I think you have a point to be made with the Sandy side of things because how do we know Sandy is going to go deeper into the games here? Is another year removed from Tommy John surgery. I think he's more than likely being trade bait this offseason. I think it makes so much sense that you'd rather keep Cabrera, Perez with Sandy at his age, innings logged. I wouldn't be shocked. And Sandy's Jekyll and Hyde this year. Either he's really great or he's getting lit up. So could be a short leash there with them.
yeah. I think the Mets look at this like obviously with Sproat being your only guaranteed starter in this series, you feel reasonably confident, which is crazy to be saying about a rookie, by the way, in his like fifth big league start. That like you feel second most confident about Brandon Sproat delivering for you. Assuming you win this, like your goal was to win tonight, hope the Reds help you out, and then get to Saturday and figure out how to get that game. Just get it done before 162. I think that's the bet blueprint.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, just pulling up the Cincy game tonight. It's Littell versus Priester.
Yeah.
So like that is a huge advantage for Milwaukee. Again, Milwaukee looks like they're going with their usual lineup. They just have so many guys that are just like good. Like since he's pitching, they also threw their better pitchers in the series against the Pirates and lost 2 of 3. They I think it's going to be difficult for them. I think Arizona's probably the scarier team. Again, the Mets just have to win this first one, and I think they're in a really good spot. We'll see what happens though.
Yeah, tonight's game is like as much as the Twitter audience is not saying, "Oh, every game's not a must win." This is a must win.
Yes. Anyone who says that's an idiot, by the way.
Yeah,
Anyone who says this is not a must win, you're a moron. You're a moron. There's 3 games left in the season. They're not clinched into the postseason. Shut up. It's a must win. Like if you don't think that's a must win, then you're part of the problem and would be a horrible person to have in an organization that strives to win.
yeah, that's for sure. So I think the strategy, like we talked about, is simple here. Like I think that if they win two, I think they will get help from somewhere to win. I think Milwaukee's not getting swept in this series. I think Milwaukee get at least one.
Yeah, and like we're talking about a well-oiled machine in Milwaukee. Like Milwaukee can like not try and win a series. Like they've been that good this year. I wouldn't be shocked, man. I mean, there were like moments where the Pirates were like pressing the Reds, and threatening. This is a totally different beast here. I honestly think that there is pressure mounting it with Cincy. I would say, like, truthfully, and thankfully the Mets have the gap over Arizona. Um, Arizona would have scared me more. I think Arizona this final series is scarier than, Cincinnati.
Yeah, for sure. And like the Mets win one game, Arizona has to sweep the Padres to stay alive.
And Arizona, and I believe San Diego and Chicago, it's not solidified yet on who does what in terms of wild card
That
one and who's
that
hosting.
that is correct. The Cubs are up two right now on the Padres. I don't know what is the tiebreaker. I'm gonna try and look that up real quick, but like there is a chance theoretically that San Diego could pass.
There's a lot to play for everybody except LA. The Dodgers are basically cemented in their spot.
Yeah, the Dodgers are going to take the weekend off basically. Just they get their pitching lined up for whoever they play in the wild card series, which right now is the Mets.
Yeah.
And we're speaking of that Dodger series here. Like, obviously, this would be a rematch of the NLCS. Definitely a weaker Dodger team than we saw last year when they were a juggernaut. But Mookie Betts had a down year. Like, a lot of their pickups have not really worked out here. But the Mets will be going to LA. They won the season series, but all those games came before June 12th, which is something you got to remember here. But
Of course.
you got to think about this here. The Dodgers basically have said, okay, in some combination, throwing Otani, Snell, and Yamamoto in the wild card series here. Like the
Mhm.
Mets, we know McLean is lined up to pitch game one. If they stay on turn, Sproat is going to pitch game two. Like, like, what do you think the chances are the Mets can actually like make like get win a wild card series if they get there? How they match up?
I think everything about the New York Mets having an opportunity to win the World Series is what I've told you and Will weeks back is they have to be the 2023 Rangers.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way that it works out. I think the important thing with this matchup specifically against the Dodgers, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of that 2015 series where they have a distinct, clear advantage with the pitching staff in terms of their top guys. Are at that time, DeGrom was not at the level even Zach Greinke was. Greinke and Kershaw was the best 1-2 in baseball. The Dodgers here, where the Mets pitching is at, it's night and day. However, the really important thing about these Dodgers and why in a three-game series this favors the Mets is that if you throw Otani going past 5 innings is difficult to see.
Their bullpens
Then
are
you
bad
get,
this year, the Dodgers.
and which is the point I'm getting to is that their bullpen is so volatile. Out of all the teams that are headed to the postseason clinched or likely going to the postseason, I would say the Dodgers have by far the most volatile bullpen. And in October, where you and your top three guys in this rotation, and I know they could bring Glass now out too, and who's it? Who's
Kershaw,
the say again?
Kershaw too at the bottom.
Well, Kershaw, and then the other pitcher who was throwing very well against the Giants. His name is escaping me. He destroyed me in fantasy. Schneider or something.
Yeah.
They have to get to that bullpen. You have to hope that Otani is off his game, even though his stuff looks great. If you get to Otani early, you get it, game one. It has to be established game one. You have to put your foot on the gas, put your foot on their neck, make them be in a situation where they have to go to the bullpen quicker than they want to. They're going to have to use guys out of the pen. And they're going to have to try and control the game because if that Mets offense gets going, that's just as good of an offense as anyone's in baseball. And I know Will is not as as optimistic as you or I heading into the postseason.
They broke him like 3 weeks ago.
But when you get in, right, and it's Lindor is up, and then Lindor gives you a tough at bat, he does whatever, and Lindor in the postseason, and he gets respect. Juan Soto's up. Like that, this is where it gets tricky. Soto gets scary. Then it's Alonso. Then it's Nimmo. Then it's guys like Vientos who could flip a switch and be scary.
Remember, Vientos last October was basically the Mets' best hitter.
Like Mark has the potential to like take over a series. We've seen it. And I think when he did what he did last October or even just last season in general, that confidence sticks with you forever. I personally think. And after he had that month of August that he had, he knows that he can carry that momentum into it. Even if there's inconsistent playing time, he has the ability to do that. Ultimately, the Mets have to get to the Dodgers bullpen, and they have to hope that their rookies do what they can. And the advantageous part of having rookies in is that they don't understand how big the moment is. And I think that's so valuable in a way for the Mets because they know deep down when there's guys that have all this pressure mounted, this is the biggest moment of their careers, they know that they could press, right? These guys, I'm not necessarily worried about that. It's more of less the innings, the wall that they would hit. Like we saw Nolan McLean hit a wall last night, hanging breaking balls. And you and I both agree with this. If they get to McLean gives them 5 innings straight, I'm going right to Clay Holmes,
Yeah.
for example. I'm going Clay immediately. It's a 3-game series. You got to get the game if you're in a position for that. If Nolan gives you 5, then I'm going to Clay if I can get 2 to 3 out of him.
Edwin Diaz.
And then go for like a 2 inning Diaz
Yeah.
potentially. It just really, again, it depends on how it unfolds. I think the Mets have to play it that way. And this is where Clay Holmes becomes really valuable for them if he's on his game, because Clay can give you 2 to 3 and you could get that out of him. Mania, we'll see. I don't trust him. I don't trust him or David Peterson. I don't think Kodai Senga's pitching in the postseason. I don't think he can. Um,
Yeah.
Dude, he can't throw a strike.
Yeah. So anyway, to add to your point on the bullpen here, I think it's important here that like the issue the Mets have had to start pitching here is that like obviously you're going at least 6 games at a time that day off. So like it's hard to, manage your bullpen knowing like, okay, I gotta play 4 more days in a row. And like I gotta make sure like I don't destroy everybody to get this one game. Whereas in the postseason,
Exactly.
you can go shorter. Whereas like if McLean goes through 4 and has trouble in the fifth, you're starting to see, okay, they're starting to feel a little bit more confident in guys like Ryan Stanek. Ryan Helsley's had 6 straight scoreless outings.
Yeah.
Raley's been nailed since he got back here. You can go
Correct.
multiple innings with Diaz here. Like
Correct.
I think they can shorten the game more effectively in the postseason with their bullpen than they can in the regular season, which I think is a big.
Exactly. Because you're worrying about, oh, we got this series coming up. We have to get these guys ready. Because if we, like you're saying, if we use like Helsley for 2 innings or an inning and a third, like we can't like really supplement that over like a week and a half. But the postseason is just like, okay, 1 game. And then guess what? If the Mets steal that first game, it's like we just need one of the next two.
Yeah,
And that's doable. The Dodgers are going to be the favorites. They have the advantage. They're the better team.
they'll be at home.
They'll be at home. To me, in baseball, it doesn't matter. It's 3 games. Anything goes.
Yeah,
And like who's to say Freeman doesn't suck? Well, highly unlikely. It's probably the worst player I could have used. But Mookie like continues to say like he was terrible last postseason up until the NLCS, I believe. He had a really poor 2023 postseason, and that was carrying over into 2024 until they played the Mets. Um,
remember also the Mets had a pretty good blueprint to get Ohtani out earlier in the year. Like they were at a lot of success against him, like in games. So like it'll be interesting to see if they can carry.
yes, it's baseball, man. Anything goes. And the Mets offensively, again, they're scary. It's not like, this team, it would be very funny if they did nothing over 2 games. But man, you just don't know. You just don't know. I think the funniest thing would be whoever, if they get to a game 3 and whoever throws game 3, and if it's one of the veterans and they pitch great, everyone's going to be so infuriated but happy at the same time. But
Yeah,
yeah, again, it's getting in, but the 3 game set just feels like 2015. I don't know about you, but it just that series against the Dodgers, it's just like we could pull this off, but a few things have to go in the Mets direction, but it's nowhere near impossible.
yeah. If the Mets get that, who's waiting on the
Hmm.
NLDS? The
Right,
Phillies.
as of right now, yeah.
As of right now, assuming the standings don't change here, we the Phillies who have not won a game at Citi Field in over a year. So like
Do they want to play the Mets?
I don't know.
Like seriously, is there a part of like Philly fans that rather face the Dodgers than the? I know they smacked them at Citizens Bank recently. I think like what was established in the regular season was like well known. Like over the course of 162, Phillies had a good offense. The pen changed it. They're not going to have Alvarado, as we know.
Yeah.
And that pitching staff was too deep. That's why I picked the Phillies to win the division. They were too deep the entire year for them not to win it, even though their offense, which has also gotten deeper as the season has gone on, is Trey Turner coming back 100%. He hasn't played. He's not going to have played in what, like at least 3 weeks or something, maybe a little bit longer. So, it's just sort of like we know that NLDS curse where
Yeah.
teams get breaks
Yeah.
and they can cool off.
Yeah. And like the last thing I think a Philly fan wants is the Mets there, they split in Philly. You got to go win one in
Mm.
City Field to bring it back to Philly.
Dude,
That's
like they don't want that. I don't think the Phillies want it. And again, the Phillies will play anybody. I just think we all know there is just clearly something that when the Phillies arrive at Citi Field, they get worried about it. And again, the Mets have to get
get
in,
there.
beat the Dodgers and that. But I think the path for them, I think the Phillies don't want it. I don't think they would.
I think they're the one team that you don't want to see for the Phillies, just because like you had the City Field thing hanging in your head.
I think that's yeah, and I think anything goes in this playoffs.
And
Both sides, American League, National League. I think anyone who gets in has a chance to win the whole thing.
yeah,
Truthfully.
yeah,
And I'm talking like
there's no dominant team this year outside of Milwaukee. We talked about there multiple times how we think Milwaukee's style does not translate to postseason play.
yeah, Will thinks that. I'm not saying I like agree or disagree with it. I understand the sentiment. We'll see how they play over five. I think this Brewers team, oddly enough, has less pressure this year.
I
I
don't
think that they like exceeded
agree.
so many expectations. They're a lot younger. I don't know if you disagree on this. To me, like the Brewers, it's like it's sort of. I'll be honest with you. If you told me Brewers and the Mariners match up in the World Series, I wouldn't be surprised.
I disagree on Milwaukee is because when you are that dominant for that long, like you are probably the favorite in the eyes of like experts, and the betting odds don't say as much. But like I
Well,
think
I mean,
worry
yes.
is also like their style of play is like in postseason baseball, you need to strike people out, you need to hit like the 3-run homer, and I don't think they do enough of that. And you see these elite pitchers every day; it's hard to string together 4 hits in a row to get a run.
That is fair. I would just say the Brewers themselves putting pressure on themselves.
Yeah,
Not expectations of these are the best, most successful regular season Brewers teams of all time. It's really just we all know it. Brewers make the playoffs, goose egg, almost every single time. I think for them getting in, getting that bye. Listen, as of today, Milwaukee, San Diego. I mean, sorry, Chicago, San Diego.
that's not a bad match for Milwaukee. I'm saying they'd be running more trouble in the CS when they face whoever comes out of that side of the bracket.
Yeah, I think they're more favored. I think the most prolific teams are Dodgers, Mets,
Philly.
and Philly. And I say prolific offensively. Mets Mets in a series, like you're basically like hoping and praying Sean Manaea and David Peterson do something, right?
Or
And the funny thing is, we saw John Maine and Oliver Perez put in good NLCS starts. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's gonna be tough.
yeah, two quick things to wrap up here. Number one, make a call. Are the Mets getting in the playoffs this weekend?
I kind of have to. I've been more positive than not for the
Of late.
first time
Yeah.
in a while. I know I'm stunning you and Will with that. So I say they get in. Um, so yes, the Mets
I
get in.
I think they get in. We talk about the Reds here. This is not like Cleveland where they've been white hot and you say, oh my God, the Reds could like sweep the Brewers here. The Reds have like under 500 the last like 60 games. The only reason they're in the race is because the Mets have let them stay in the race. I think the Mets will do just enough to get in.
Yeah, I agree. I think their offense can carry them for a game. The Marlins have a really good pitching staff. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets drop 2 of 3 in this one. There's just like something for me that win in Chicago. The Mets have been winning, and it's funny that they mentioned, I'm not sure if it was Tacoma or Michael Mayer who tweeted out saying like the Mets actually play up to their opponents and they play down to their opponents.
Yep. As evidence.
Miami's not a pusher. Like the funny thing is like on nobody disrespects this Miami Marlins team. This isn't like some team that they're like, oh yeah, take it. Like we know. We know the pitchers that they're throwing. The Mets know it. Like everybody is sort of like, yeah, the Marlins could beat the Mets this series. And to me, it's just like, yeah, they know that. Like it's just it wouldn't surprise me. And I just think that the Mets aren't gonna let their guard down. That like some people it's just PTSD, folks. Like
Yeah.
chill.
Let's see them actually lose the series and miss before we start having the panic attacks.
Yes. And I'm not saying I wouldn't be shocked if they did. So
I mean, nothing that over the last 3.5 months would make you shocked if they missed it. It just feels like
right.
I just think that like considering this the setup
I
they have,
think it's the teams that are not the Mets
yes,
is why.
it's like
Yeah.
I think it's likely Milwaukee wins the series just because Milwaukee wins series. I think especially considering they have to get home field still and they have to stay sharp ahead of that week break. So I think I can easily see them winning the first two games of the series and say, okay, everybody take a nap on Sunday.
Yeah.
All right, that's thing one. And thing two, like we know that there's a lot of change coming in the offseason. We've been on record here. We don't think it's going to be the manager. Obviously, we don't think it's going to be the David Stearns either here. Like, what
Mhm.
kind of change do you think could be coming here? And I think, like, barring like a deep October run, I think there's going to be significant roster turnover.
I think it's kind of funny because some people are going to assume pitching staff major overhaul. Not necessarily. I think they already like know that these rookies are capable of being major league pitchers, which solidifies a lot. They still have guys in the wings like Weniger, Santucci's of the world, that could come up and do stuff. Christian Scott will come back next year. There's Valdez and the Ranger Suarez's of the world as free agencies. I ultimately think of David Peterson, Montas, Senga, and
Aya.
Manaya. Yes, thank you. I think you could see three of the four be gone.
Well,
Uh,
Montas not pitching because he had Tommy John, so it's two.
well, either way, the Mets could just get rid of the money. I'm not really sure if there's an insurance reallocation. There could be get some of
Uh,
that money back,
as far as I'm aware, they could get the money back, but it will not come off their luxury tax bill. They still have to deal with that.
which is whatever for a season. It's going to be tricky because of the CBA ending next year. So what are you doing long-term deal wise with some guys? So I'm questioning whether like Valdez and or Ranger Suarez should be at the top of their list regardless. I don't really care lefty this, lefty that. Like good pitchers, sign them if they're there.
You
You
need
have
you need at least one to top your rotation.
at least one.
Yeah.
And if it's not via that, you have to do trade. You have to do a trade. And I think they should do a trade regardless. I think they've clearly built up a farm system. It's been reputable. They're winning championships in the minor leagues. People rate their farm system highly. They have tons of guys in there. They didn't really give up that many guys at the deadline, despite what a lot of panic was. They have more information. This is something I talk about to you and Will all the time. They have more info on these infielders. Mauricio can be gone. Alonso is a big question mark to me. I know
Alonso,
there's some people.
Alonso his length of contract more than anything.
I think Alonso is there a team? I mean, the Cubs wouldn't shock me. Is there a team out there that is willing to give the years to Alonso and willing to do that? I don't know. I think again in Pete Alonso's best interest is to stay a New York Met. I also think he should be a DH. I don't think he should be first base. He terrifies me. I think I think that Vientos is staying, Beatty is staying. I think you could see Jeff McNeil, Mauricio, and Acuna all go, unless they do Acuna's super utility, which I wouldn't be upset at. I think Acuna would have to be a part of a package for a really good player that, a team would like. Otherwise, I think you could see Acuna be this Swiss Army knife for the Mets. Great pinch runner, could play center field, second base, shortstop. I wouldn't be shocked, right? Because you see guys like Nick Madrigal signed, who we never saw play for the Mets. I'm not like wouldn't be stunned if Acuna's there. Catching wise, they're going to keep. And to your point that you bring up, that Carson Bench, is he going to have the ability to win the center field job? Siri Mullins, they're gone. I think Tyrone Taylor has proved so invaluable to be the Mets' fourth outfielder. They keep him. Starling Marte, obviously off the books. Edwin Diaz stays long term. I think the Mets try and get an elite setup guy, whether or not it's Helsley returning. I think Rogers also returns. unless he wants to go back to San Francisco. His personality is like a little different. Um, Helsley or Devin Williams, what happens there? Are one of those guys potentially going to be an elite setup man for the Mets? Ultimately, the big overhaul is going to be with the starting rotation. And I think they need an experienced veteran who needs to come in, eat innings, and be a leader. The Mets don't even have like a really good three as of today. And I'm excluding the rookies. I think Jonah Tong will be ready later on. Again, I don't actually think you see Tong come up immediately or break camp with the Mets. I could see him staying in AAA. Um, yeah, I think I've been calling for a trade. I've been off for a couple seasons now. I just think that there's a big trade coming with David Stearns. I'm not sure how much longer he's trying to fill out the market. I think him whiffing Mike at the deadline for a starting pitcher, and I think he's also like kind of like alluded to it that he felt like he should have been more aggressive for it, makes him more aggressive. Whether it's a Mitch Keller, whether it's a potential Seattle pitcher, whether it's someone from Miami. We don't know. I think that there is a distinct possibility that the Mets trade for a above average or top of the line starting pitcher. I don't believe you see a Tariq Skubal traded to the Mets.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think Stearns is going to send whatever package that is for him. I think ultimately what happens with Skubal is going to be a team that is okay with trading prospects to get him for 1 year and then losing him in free agency. Uh,
Dodgers.
you think the Dodgers are going to do it? I don't think the Dodgers are. I don't think that's what they necessarily want to go towards,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I think they're going to have theirs. I think them.
San Diego, if they had anything left, would be another spot.
San Diego is always a possibility. Again, I wouldn't even be. Again, it has to be a team that feels like that if they sneak in and they have a guy like Tariq Skubal, they can go the extra mile. I wouldn't be shocked on an NL team. Again, you never count out the Dodgers. I just don't see the Mets doing that because you don't want to. They don't want to deal with another Boris client and then give Skubal all that money. If the Mets are going to trade a lot of top prospects and then hope to keep a guy long term, they're going to try for Paul Skeens. And
Yeah.
I 100% expect the Mets to be in on Paul Skeens. You're talking about at least 2 years from now. It's
Yes.
not going to be next off season. It's not going to be this off season. Heading into the 2027 season, I believe, right? Is that what I'm saying? That is. Uh, yeah,
Postseason.
so yeah, because it will whatever. Either way, Paul Skeens ain't getting traded this offseason.
No.
Anyone who thinks that is nuts. No one's going to meet the price. They
They're
don't want to do it. CBA is coming up. You're not going to see any movement on a guy like that until after the fact. I would do Valdez ultimately.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I do think they need an ace. I think they need to like as I've said multiple times with you guys in chats and other places, they have to consolidate some of these young pieces they have and to get a more impact player, definitely the top of the rotation because like you cannot do the four infielder thing again next year, four young kid infield. And you need to like
It's
get
impossible. Well, and also like we're not even talking about their top prospect is a second baseman.
yeah, you got to clear some of these guys out to make room for like the guys who you think can be studs. And I think like Jet Williams will eventually be in the Jeff McNeil spot. I feel like in terms of
He's
like
going to be a second baseman.
yeah,
He's absolutely going to be a second. He's 5'6".
yeah.
He's not an elite. Well, he's fast, but I don't. They got bench. Carson Bench is going to be the future of the center field
What I'm saying
position.
is Jeff more sense like okay, like
I know what you meant by that. But like for people who think like this year's Jeff, like center field,
I mean,
Jet Williams is what they want is for him to be the long-term second baseman. Beatty won the job for next year, as far as I'm concerned, for third. So
yeah. So I think like the long term, I think they vision like Jet taking the McNeil spot. So okay, like he's the prior second baseman, but he can also play corner outfield. He can play third. He can play short. Like if we need to bounce here for a day, he can. I think that's what they have in mind.
yeah, and I fully expect Jet to be debuting by whatever that
I
date is.
I think Jet midseason next year would be my guess. And I think Carson Benz would be given an opportunity to win the center field job in spring training.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much competition.
No, I think it's like, can you beat out Tyrone Taylor? I think that's what it's going to be. I don't think they're going
And the way we've seen the Mets operate this year, Mike, would you be surprised if they're like, oh yeah, we like how deep our team is. Our pitching staff's better this year. We're okay with Tyrone Taylor for 2 months
I think
while Carson marinates.
I think so. I think they would see. I think Carson Bench would have to really crush the baseball in spring training and say, "Okay, I'm ready," and then force their hand.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Martia. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate you. If you want to follow you on social media, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, they can just follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Martino Puccio on there. So yeah, lots of soccer stuff, but obviously doing more with the Mets in the coming weeks. Again, finally getting back into all that side of stuff. I've been so busy this entire season, but obviously been watching every game possible. So we'll see what they're able to do and if they're able to sneak in.